Well, the astrology of the lightning path has a lot to do with attuning to the current cosmic moment. As we understand it through a study of cycles of sun, moon, planets, movements of the galaxy, all of this is integrated into a worldview that is cyclic, holistic, and one that we can apply on a day-to-day basis. Being in harmony with the cycles of nature is an experience that many of us do not partake in. We become isolated and insulated from the natural order, especially if we live in the city. And this works against us ultimately, because the environment is essential to our health and well-being. A good relationship with the environment means that the environment is actually feeding us, and it's bringing us nourishment that we can't get when we're huddled in our hobbit houses and on our screens and so on. So one way of alleviating that disconnect is to become conscious of the changing phases of the moon, for example. This is probably the most practical activation of an astrological orientation to life that one might undertake. The phases of the moon are a result of the changing relationship between the sun, the moon, as viewed from Earth. The synodic cycle, as it's called, of the moon is from one new moon to the next. And by tracking the progressive changes in the face of the moon, we can become attuned to that cycle. If we take it a step further and keep a journal, as I have done for many, many years, a journal that starts at a new moon and helps to keep us conscious of that of the cycle as it unfolds over the next 29 and a half days. The cycle goes through predictable phases and stages. Most notably, we have beyond the new moon, we have just over a week later, we have the first quarter square of the moon. A week after that, we have the full moon, which is the exact opposite point in the cycle to the new moon. That moment is very transitory and takes us into the second half of the cycle. A week after the full moon, we have the last quarter square, and then a week later back around to another new moon. So that's your complete cycle in 29 and a half days. Now, as you become progressively more and more aware of the inner structure of the lunation cycle, as it's called, you will be able to align your actions in the world to the current phase of the moon and what is appropriate action at that time if you want to live in harmony with this unfolding cycle. From personal experience, I can attest to the fact that there is a tangible empowerment that comes to each of us by maintaining such an ongoing awareness, a cyclic awareness. And the other really significant aspect of attuning to the the lunation cycle, the cycle of moon phases from one new moon to the next, is to realize that each one of us was born at a particular phase of the moon. Now, that can be determined from a natal birth chart. It's simply the angle between the sun and the moon at the moment of birth. And this constitutes what is called our lunation birthday. And it reoccurs every 29 and a half days. So by determining that particular birthday, we can look forward to that point in the lunation cycle as a moment of tangible empowerment. The more aware we are of it, the more empowered we become at that particular phase. I'll put a link to, in the show notes, a link to where you can calculate your own particular lunation birthday, and also how you can become progressively more and more aware of the structure of the lunation cycle and of your respective lunation birthday.